All right, it says we're live. Hey guys. Oh, good. I already see some comments on the side. So it looks like some folks have already popped on. Selena says it's her first Embroidery Nurse Live. Welcome, welcome. You've come for a fun topic to talk about taxes and small business stuff. So that's awesome. So we're just going to wait a second and just have a few more people pop on before we get going. And I'll introduce our first ever guest as my TV goes off. So we're excited. You guys pop on, share this with your groups if you know others that would get some benefit about learning more about small business accounting and all the good stuff that is kind of scary to talk about. So good, Shana. Yeah, I did post it in Discord. I didn't put an exact link, but I figured everybody could find it. So that's good. But yeah, we'll wait just a second or two more before we kind of hit the ground running and see if you guys have specific questions. You can go ahead and start posting them. And Diane is going to be our first guest aficionado that is here to answer all our scary questions tonight. She is so awesome for joining us. I'll just introduce her first too. And you guys, like I said, if you've got questions, go ahead and start asking them. I've got a few that I've kind of written down that some of us have, or people have asked me along the way that I never feel comfortable asking. So, Diane, say hi.
Hi.
Everybody can hear everybody. This is our first time doing a two-person live, so this is pretty cool. So Diane owns a small business accounting firm in Kansas. Correct me if any of this is wrong. She's been in business for 6 years and loves to help small businesses with accounting, tax, and payroll issues. And she just loves to talk business with business owners like you guys. I will put a link to her business. And then also what I think is so awesome for you guys and for us is she also has a handmade business that she started selling personalized dog bandanas and adding other accessories to it along the way. So she's, not only in accounting, she understands our world of Etsy and what we do daily, and can help from that perspective of maybe understanding a little bit more. Because, I feel like some people in accounting world don't know all the ins and outs of the handmade side small business. So she's going to be a great asset to us tonight. She also has done embroidery. She used to do birthday shirts and tutus. So she has kind of dabbled in a lot. It sounds like.
A little bit.
That's awesome.
A little bit.
So I don't know if there's anything else that you can add, or if you anything else you want to share. Go for it.
I don't think so. I mean, I actually started my Etsy business so that I could understand how they work a little bit more, so we could help people with all the questions, because we're starting to see more and more. So this is a really crazy year with more people opening so many shops that it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I definitely think more people have kind of jumped into the game of being able to work from home with their kids being home and just trying to something that they had as a side hustle, switching it from that to, a full-time business or trying to get it to be that. I mean, I know that's how I started. I was just doing this on the side, and then all of a sudden I was making too much money to not be understanding the business side of what I was doing. And I certainly went too long with just playing like this was pocket money and not like taking it seriously like it was a business. And I kind of got hit hard in the beginning of just being way in over my head. So that's probably where a lot of people are at, especially if this is a year that, like, the first year they might have seen growth that they hadn't seen before, especially with a lot of sellers, Etsy just being more popular too. So, all right, I'm going to go back up to the top. Welcome to everybody that's joining. And because I know I saw a couple of questions already, so we're just going to hit the ground running and see what we've come up with. Let's see. So yeah, some of these questions I will have no clue. So I'm glad that you can see these. So I'm just going to put them on the screen and I'll let you just take at them. You can just go have at it.
Okay. Depreciating machines. If it costs more than $500, you are technically supposed to depreciate it over 5 years. But the IRS, I think it was last year, 2018, decided to let you depreciate up to $1 million in equipment the first year. So you actually kind of get to write the whole thing off at this point until 2025 or new tax rules.
Which are always coming out, which is what confuses, I think, a lot of us. That's awesome. Okay, let's see. Bonnie.
So, any ideas for tax issues for people who live in 2 states? Snowbarred, Montana in the summer and Arizona in the winter. I actually live on a state line. We live in Kansas City. So my husband works in Missouri and we live in Kansas. So we deal with this all the time. You just have to make sure, especially with like TurboTax and payments, that you claim only the income in the state that you live or that you're in at the time. So when you're in Montana, claim the income that you make in Montana at that time. When you're in Arizona, claim it in Arizona. If you pay taxes on it, like my husband pays taxes in Missouri the whole year, but we get to claim those taxes he paid in Missouri in Kansas. So there is a button somewhere in like the TurboTax and the H&R Block software that they'll ask you if you live in 2 states, make sure you look for that. And if you do live in 2 states and it looks like you owe too much money in one state versus the other and get a big refund in the other, you probably need to ask a tax person if you can't find it. But if it feels like it's too high, it probably is.
This might be way too vague. How do we do the sales tax? That's probably a little too vague kind of question, but maybe you can tell people where to start.
The big thing on sales tax is about 3 or 4 years ago, there was a big lawsuit that went through. And so now all of the states have what's called nexus rules, and it's all for e-commerce. And I think there might be 3 or 4 that don't still, actually, I think Kansas is one of them, but there are rules that if you sell more than 100 transactions into a state or more than $100,000, then you have to pay sales tax into that state. I know that there are states like Washington and Pennsylvania and places like that that Amazon and Etsy are required to collect those states and remit them for you. But what is it? Avalara is a really good resource for what states have what nexus rules because they're all different. It's all at a state level. So I would look at Avalara or TaxJar is another one. They have really good resources that are free that you can kind of read up on what states are required and that kind of thing.
And I think Etsy now, all but like 3 states collect sales tax. So that's been nice. This is the first year where they've collected it for North Carolina. That just makes it easier on my end to have one less thing that I have to keep up with. So most of them on Etsy are, I think, well, I can't even remember the 3, but you can find that list on Etsy. It will detail it pretty good.
Okay, I know that Amazon does not. They only collect the states they have to. They will collect on the states that you don't have. They don't have to remit for you, and you're required to remit. So if you sell on Amazon too, you want to make sure that you know which states they're actually remitting for you and which ones you're
required to do.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Dawn.
Under our designs we buy, which category does this deduction go under? I would put it under supplies. It's something that you have to have in order to do your business. So I would put it under, there's a supplies and materials. It's often in like the cost of goods sold section, depending on the structure of your business. But on the Schedule C, there's a little side entry for cost of goods sold. I would put it in there under supplies and materials.
Awesome. Okay. Oop, I went down too far. I don't know if you're seeing these on the side. Let's see. Going to go back up so I don't miss them. All right, here we go. Sandy C.
If you buy equipment before you start a business, can you still claim them on taxes when you start your business? Yes, you absolutely can. It's usually, if you've had it for a few years, it's usually the fair market value of the equipment at the time you put it into service for your business. So if it's like half of its life is used, you'd use about half the cost. But you can absolutely still use it. Just make sure that you do the value when you place it into service.
That's good to know. Okay, let's see. Sandy.
I started my business this year. I bought all of my equipment prior to getting my tax EIN. Should this cause me a problem when filing my taxes this year? Absolutely not, especially if you're a sole proprietor or what's called a single member LLC. It's still kind of under your tax, you file it under your own social security number on the same tax return. So there's not usually a problem, but just save your receipt. And if they ever ask, just say, this is the equipment for this and I use it in my business, and you should be fine.
I get this question a bunch too, about information about LLC.
Oh, we get this question all the time. At what point should an individual go from a sole proprietor to an LLC? So this is actually not an accounting question. It's more of a legal question, but an LLC basically protects you against lawsuits. So if somebody were to sue your business for whatever reason, I don't know, they got a rash from the shirt that you got and their baby got really sick or something, and they could sue the business and it doesn't come back on you personally. So it's a way to protect your personal assets from your business assets. From a tax perspective, there's no difference between a sole proprietor and an LLC.
All right. Veronica.
If I have an online shop, do I only charge tax to patrons from my home state? You absolutely have to charge tax to the people from your home state. But like I said before, there's a nexus thing. So if you sell a whole lot into one state, each state has a different rule as to whether or not you need to collect sales tax. So I would still check Avalara or TaxJar for those rules. They do a really good job of listing each state. And on Etsy, there's a place that you can download all your orders and see them by state. And what we do is we kind of download those, we'll sort them by state and add them up just to see if anybody has met that criteria that we need to have them start collecting taxes in those states. But both those softwares have a really good chart by state.
So I have a question that kind of goes along that. Like, if we're looking for an accountant, are there some that do specialize in small business? Is there questions that we can ask? Like, my dad threw out a name to me, and when I reached out to them, I was like, yeah, I don't think they have a clue what I'm doing. So the first person I had really wasn't helpful, and then I'm not even sure the person I have now is the right person. Is there something I should ask when I'm looking for one, or something I should research when I'm looking for one?
I think that a gut feeling is usually a really good thing to do. My favorite saying is accountants are like Starbucks. There's one on every corner. So you have to find the one that you feel comfortable with. Sit down, have a conversation with them, tell them what you're doing, ask them if they have suggestions, if they can tell you a little bit how you can save taxes. If they don't have an answer, or they tell you have to pay money in order to get an answer, probably not the right one, because they probably need to go look it up, is generally what I found. But if they can sit and have a conversation with you about your business and understand the ins and outs, then you're probably in pretty good hands. Everybody's so different that it's not really there's no set questions, but generally it's a feeling. If you feel it's not quite right, move on and get another one. Because we want you to feel like it's home. Like, you can come to us with any question, that we answer your questions. The sales tax question is always a really good one to ask. How do you deal with sales tax? Because if they don't know, they don't do product businesses. That's a really good way to tell. But in general, smaller firms will handle smaller businesses. Larger firms will not have any clue that small businesses are different than large businesses. So
yeah, I think that was my problem. My dad is a big businessman, works in the big business world, and he was trying to give me the one that he's worked with that wasn't for me. So could anybody use someone anywhere, or is it better to have somebody local that might understand your state better, or what was your suggestion?
I would say that we do taxes pretty much all over the country. Most of ours have started in Kansas and moved. But most of the time, any accountant can do any state. If you live on a state line, make sure they understand that question. So we live in Kansas City, like I said, we live on a state line. And so you have to know the multi-state factor that goes on. But other than that, generally anybody anywhere can. So if you have a good feeling about somebody, talk to them and ask them. They'll tell you whether or not they can. I will tell you that California and New York are really crazy states with taxes. Pennsylvania is a little bit, they have a lot of localities. So not all accountants understand California and New York because they have so many nuances that if you live in one of those states, I would get an accountant in one of those states because they know all of the ins and outs and all of the tricks and trades to make sure that you get the right deductions.
Oh, good. Even more confusing if you live there. Sorry, guys.
They know. If they live there,
they already know that, I guess. Okay. Yeah. All right, Melissa.
I started 5 months ago, but never got a business license or anything because I didn't expect anything, to be honest. How do I account for this in taxes? So you don't technically have to have a business license to file for taxes. I would still just claim your income and any expenses that you have on your Schedule C. It goes under your Social Security number. It happens. You don't really have to have an EIN number, which is like your business number, unless you have employees or pay sales tax. If you think your business is going to be bigger, I would suggest you get a business license and look into whether or not you need a reseller license in your state. Most people will, but even if you haven't filed anything, you can still file it for taxes. You can still have a business almost anywhere without filing anything.
Is a reseller's ID the same as the sales and use?
Most of the states are, yes.
Okay, I'm just making sure I have that.
Yeah.
I have that, but I don't know if
you
I'm
have a sales tax number and you know how to remit sales tax to your state, you should be good.
Okay, all right. See, I told you I don't know the answers. All right, let's see. All right, Shayna. Hi, Shayna.
Do you recommend a sole proprietor hire an accountant? Well, I'm kind of biased, but I think everybody should hire an accountant. I think in the first year, it's definitely a really good idea to hire an accountant, mostly because there are a lot of deductions that will leave on the table if you don't talk to somebody about it. Because you may not think about phone and internet, supplies like ink and paper and all those kinds of things. The home office deduction is always a big one and the things that you need for that. So I would always recommend you at least talk to an accountant. Especially in your first year. They will help you get the deductions that you need. They can also help you with the IRS and all that kind of stuff if anything ever comes up and kind of help you through that. It becomes less scary if you have somebody who is not afraid of the IRS.
I'm afraid of the IRS.
Everybody should be on a level, but
I'm afraid. The first year it was a wash for me because I didn't know what I was doing whatsoever. Only reason I got the sales and tax ID was so I could buy wholesale. It wasn't for anything other than that. And I didn't think anything about it. And then they contacted me at the end of the year, like, are you still a business? Because we haven't gotten anything from you. And I'm like, what did you need from me? I had no clue. I mean, I was clueless, but I had the nicest person and they just basically wrote that year out as a wash because it was anyway. I mean, I had just started. Sure. I was well under any profit at that point. So, but that was my wake up call with the IRS. I'm like, oh, okay.
I will say the nicer you are to the IRS, the nicer they are to you. So yeah, they are kind of scary a little bit, but if you're nice to them, they'll help you. Their job is to help you get them what they need. So as long as you play nice, they're nice too.
Their end goal is for you to pay them, right? So
yes.
But I wish their forms weren't so confusing. It wouldn't be so intimidating. Like the forms, I literally had to write down like exactly like what I put and where I put it. So every time I do it, each quarter, I'm still looking at it clueless, even though I've done this for several years. But I forget which goes this percent for the county and this percent for the. It's confusing. I still don't know what I'm doing, but I'm trying.
But if they were less confusing, they wouldn't have a job.
They wouldn't.
I wouldn't have a job.
Oh, well, I'm glad I'm helping the, I'm so glad I'm helping. I'm doing my part. All right, Renee.
How do you claim the area you work from and can you claim the electricity and things like internet or cable if it's in your room? So the home office deduction, you need to know the square footage that is used 100% for business. So you can't use it for anything else. You can't use it for kids' toys and playrooms and that kind of stuff. And then they take a percentage based on the whole house square footage as well. And so you get to use things, all of your utilities, any repairs and maintenance you did to the inside of the home, not the outside of the house, the inside, except the roof. The roof is the only thing on the outside that counts. You can claim part of your property taxes, rent, or mortgage, whichever one you pay. Those are the big items that go into that. You get a percentage of what you paid based on the percentage of the house that you use. So it can be significant for some people. Like I use my entire basement only for work. And so that can be very significant based on the rest of my house. It's basically half my house.
That's awesome.
When I sell items, do I have to collect taxes? So Etsy collects most of the taxes that you need for yourself. So I would look on, Kelly said on Etsy, there's a list of the taxes that they collect for you and remit. So just make sure you know whether or not they're remitting them for you. If they're not, you need to make sure to collect taxes at least in your home state and remit them.
She says I'm in Nevada. That was the next.
Oh. I don't know about specific states. Unfortunately, not that one anyway.
Yeah, Etsy really does. If you guys haven't opened up and just explored in Etsy, they really do have a lot of good financial information in there. It's boring, but it is chock full of information. They even have Etsy forums that you can, ask specific questions. If you can't you get someone one-on-one, with Etsy, they really do have a lot of resources that you can access and try to find, answers just right there. I mean, they want you to, do it the right way and whatnot too. So, and they're kind of always changing how, they handle different things. So it's good to kind of keep up with that. All right, here's a good one.
And what is the most common mistake small businesses make? I will say not having a bank account that is specific to the business. So if you ever get audited by the IRS, you really want to have a set of bank statements that are specific to the business, because otherwise you have to account for every deposit in your personal account and why it is or isn't business income. And if you can't prove why it isn't, it's going to be automatically counted as is. It also helps with deductions and that kind of thing to say, no, I keep these separate. The IRS looks at it a little differently if they're not commingled. So I would say that's the number one thing that we see small businesses make is commingling that money together. And it just makes for bad things down the line.
I think for some reason in the beginning, I felt like I had to have that separate bank account to do something. And I can't remember what it was. If it was maybe to get my sales and use ID, that was like step one that I was told I had to do. And so I remember setting that up in the beginning. I don't know why though, but I have one.
Good.
Brett wants to know, where's my margarita? I already drank several tonight because it was cold and rainy here. And I really thought it was 9:00 like 3 hours ago. So I've already moved on to water for the night. I've already had my margaritas. Okay, let's see. Shug. Good.
I have a business license under my social with a DBA at my county office, but now I have an EIN as a sole proprietor. Is it necessary to change the business license to my EIN? That will be specific to your county or state, whether or not that they want to do that. But generally, if you have a license to do business and they got their money, that's what they care about. But I would change it to my EIN just so that everything is kind of clear. And usually you have to re-up those once a year, at least in the states that we do business in. So when you re-up, I would just change it to your EIN and let them know, or give them a call.
Good. Let's see.
Do I get to write off the entire cost of my machine even if I only had $15 in income? So in the first year that you do business, you get to write off up to $5,000 of the expenses that you had before you opened. Anything after you opened, which becomes totally deductible. So if you bought the machine prior to opening your shop, then you'll only get up to $5,000 or the cost of the machine, whichever it is. And then you have to depreciate the rest of it over the next 5 years. So I hope that answers your question.
Mary, you need to get to selling. This might need more information, maybe to even answer that one, but.
I would contact Etsy if they're not allowing you to collect taxes, because I I think if you live there, they have to let you collect them. Or if you have a nexus, they should have to allow you to collect them. So I would contact Etsy. That's maybe something in the software.
Okay, worse than monogramming.
Do you suggest a tax accountant instead of a firm? I'm guessing firm, like H&R Block. I will be honest, I'm very biased against H&R Block. If you have a small business, H&R Block accountants are generally trained to do personal returns in bulk, and they don't really, not a lot of them know anything about a small business. So I have fixed and seen more H&R Block returns that have left off deductions and not done right by the business owner than I have that they did do it right. So I would say find a CPA. That's usually a good route to go. They have to have education and all of that kind of stuff in order to do your taxes. So I would definitely suggest a tax accountant over an H&R Block. We just have more training. We're required to have more training.
All right, Bonnie.
Why does a sole proprietor need an EIN? Mostly for sales tax. So you have to have an EIN either for sales tax, to get a sales tax number, or to pay payroll. If you don't have to do any of those, then you don't need one, and you can do it under your personal Social Security number.
All right.
My accountant said he needs an inventory list for my small business, home business. Why is it necessary? What does he do with it? So any inventory that you have at the end of the year, you technically cannot write off those supplies and materials because you have them and you write them off at the time that you sell them. So you have to match your costs with your income generally. So he wants to, so of the purchases that you made in 2020, he wants to know how much you still have, and you'll get to write it off in 2021 when you use it. It's basically why he needs an inventory list.
Yeah, inventory is really confusing to a lot of folks about, like what you, like, because some people will run out at the end of the year to buy some stuff, and a lot of stuff is not considered, like I think
Right.
office supplies you can do and stuff like that, but not actual
If it's
things
not
that
something that you use to make your stuff with, so like a cost to make your product, you can write it off. So if you go buy a computer or a printer or a car that's used in the business, then you can write those off at the end of the year. But if you buy materials or anything like that, it just goes into inventory and it's not really worth it, I guess.
Like you can't buy blanks for items that you're going to make later. You can't stockpile that. Yeah, that part gets a little confusing. All right.
Can you get a sales ID without getting an AIN? That is going to be state specific. I can tell you in Missouri and Kansas, you cannot get a sales tax ID without an EIN because your sales tax ID has your EIN in it a little bit. So, but generally you don't want to, mostly because that number you give to other people, and you don't want to give your Social Security number out to, like, if you're going to buy wholesale or something like that, you don't want your Social Security number to be out there with these blanks and, wholesale sellers. So an EIN is always good. It just protects your Social Security number a little bit. It's not out there in the world as much.
And I don't think most people have requested from me is just the sales and tax ID. Like I don't really have anyone when I signed up for wholesale accounts that want the EIN. So I've not had to use that really much.
And in Kansas, the sales tax number has your EIN in the middle of it. So there's a code at the front and a code at the end, and your EIN is stacked in the middle. And so if you don't have one, it's your Social Security number, which I would never suggest anybody have that.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. I have both. All right. Down.
If you purchase items from your business online, what would you need for proof of purchase? I generally print to PDF the screen that shows a confirmation of my purchase and the price. A lot of times you get emails. If you get an email confirmation, just save that somewhere, make a tax folder in your email or something like that. Amazon, if you buy it from Amazon, you can always go in and download. I think you have to be on a computer, but you can download in an Excel format all of the orders that you had for a certain time period. So that makes it really easy for Amazon. But just save the emails or right click and have a folder on your desktop or somewhere like that to print the screenshot before you leave.
Good. All right. Oh, how much was it to get your business license? Yeah, my husband said it's thousands. I haven't done it. I don't think it was thousands. I feel like it was more like, I don't know, I'm making it up. I mean, like maybe $300 at most. I mean, I don't know if what you guys remember. I mean, I don't remember. See, I make things up, and this is why I'm no accountant. I don't know, but thousands is not. I don't think I did anything in the thousands whatsoever. So I don't know if anybody else remembers on their end. All right, let's see.
And what all do you need from your landlord as far as proof of receipt or proof of payment? You can usually get these in the form, like you could get them from your bank statements where your check cleared. Your landlord generally won't give you anything, but you should have a lease that shows what you're supposed to be paying. So if you have your lease and either your canceled checks or anything like that, sometimes landlords will write a receipt for you. It's always good if you pay cash to get a receipt just in general for anything. But I would say usually you can either show them your check, a receipt for cash, and your lease to find the proof of payment. That should be fine.
Good. Okay, so a lot of us have fabric, so this is a good one.
How do we deduct fabrics for our taxes? Do we deduct what we use by the square inches? Whatever we have left will be used for the new year. I do it by percentage. So if I know how much I bought at the end of the year, then if I've used about half of it, I'll claim that I have half left. I mean, it is not an exact science. I don't think the IRS cares that much. So there's a lot of inventory things that we do by percentage. So I would just kind of look and see how much fabric you think you have left. If it's a yard or a couple yards, then whatever it was that you paid for it times 2 yards is what I would claim you still have left. So it does not have to be exact.
I have a lot of fabric.
Me too.
Lots of random pieces that equal nothing. All right, let's see. All right.
Can I have my hair business and my home embroidery business combined? Do I have to separate it? You can absolutely have your hair business and your home embroidery business combined. I actually have my accounting firm and my dog bandana business under the same EIN, mostly because I had an EIN and I just used it. But the IRS doesn't care how many businesses you have under your EIN, just as long as you report all of the income.
Yeah, that's a good question because I've kind of branched out this year with Embroidery Nurse and Embroidery Aid. So it's two things, but when I applied for any of the wholesale, like the bigger wholesale things, I put Embroidery Nurse because that's the name that I have. It's Embroidery Nurse LLC. So I didn't know if I had to keep that name or if it's okay to use like the other name. Do I have to call it that?
It depends on your state. So you may need to register a DBA or doing business as in your state, which is generally like $50 to $100 to do it in each state. Some states don't require that. Kansas is one of those that you can call yourself whatever you want as long as your LLC is done. But on forms that you're filling out for wholesale and sales tax like that, it does need to have your legal business name.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And that's how I filled them out. And then I was like, I don't know, am I doing like a go around? Is this not what I'm supposed to be doing? But I knew that's probably what they needed. They needed what my true business name, how it was registered. So I'll have to look in North Carolina and see. The DBA would just be that I would still be Embroidery Nurse LLC, but using the name Embroidery Aid as well. Is that what that kind of means?
Yep.
Okay. So I just need to look up for North Carolina. It's on my to-do list. Okay.
I ran my business in a room inside my house part of the year. Then I built a 300 square foot space outside my house. What would I claim on this? So you can claim the room inside your house in the home office deduction for the time that you were there. Just make sure that you're counting your utilities, your rent, your mortgage, your property tax for that amount of time. And then you get to deduct 100% of whatever that space is outside of your house that you have built for the business. make sure that you get all of those costs in there, because building generally has lots of costs. So.
All All right, Renee.
I finance my machines. I make monthly payments. How does that affect claiming them on taxes? So you actually get to pay. You get to claim 100% of the cost of the machine in the year that you buy it, and then you also get to claim the interest that you're paying on that business loan. So each year, or however long it goes out. So you are required to pay that money back. So you own the business, you paid it, and then the interest that you're paying on that loan is also deductible. So make sure you get that as well.
Good.
Does an accountant file our quarterly taxes for the state? It depends on what quarterly taxes you have for the state. So some will, some will not. I'm guessing these are quarterly estimated tax payments. Some of them will file. I don't file them for my clients, but I certainly send an email every quarter to remind them they need to pay them. But they should give you coupons and that kind of thing for what you need to pay each quarter. So they should be able to at least help you through it if they don't do it on their own.
And then maybe she was talking about the sales and use quarterly too. I don't know.
Yeah, there's lots of different taxes. There's also payroll taxes that go quarterly. So just ask your accountant. Everybody does something different. And some will help you, some will not. If you need help, go find a new one that will help you.
Yeah. All right, Melissa.
If you purchase supplies equipment with a gift card, can you claim it in your inventory supplies just as if you purchased it with a cash and credit? Absolutely. Gift cards are considered cash that you spent. So even if it was a gift, I mean, I get gifted money sometimes and I use that to buy supplies and I get to claim them. So absolutely.
I think we just kind of talked about this, but just so you know, the comments we're about 10 minutes behind on the comments, so we've probably already answered this, didn't we?
Yeah. What do I know? Do I need a new EIN if I change my business name? You do not need a new EIN. EIN is for federal. You just need to file either when you file your taxes or I think you can go online to irs.gov and do a name change. They do need to know your business name change. And usually there's a box you can check on your taxes. Since we're so close to that, that might be the easiest way to do it.
A name change.
Yep.
Okay, let's see. Oh, I went too far. So I think I'm not sure, we might have already talked about Sandy's questions. I'm not sure if she was clarifying a question that she'd already asked.
So if you bought the machine prior to opening your business, then you only get to deduct $5,000. And then the remaining balance will be spread over 5 years. If you bought it after your business was open, you can write off the whole thing up to $1 million. What percentage can you claim for damages and mistakes? Whatever it is. I mean, if you get to claim samples and that kind of stuff as well. So if you have a damage or a mistake and you bought a blank and you now have to throw it away, you can deduct 100% of it. There's no percentage limit on those.
I think we touched this already too.
No, unless you want to track them differently, would be my answer.
Kind of this as well.
Okay, what's the difference between an EIN and a resale license? An EIN is the IRS's number that they have for you and how you report all your income to the IRS. A resale license is generally your sales tax number that's with the state and how you report all your income and the sales tax that are due to them.
It's a lot of information. Gosh. For a Sunday night. Way to end our weekend.
You mentioned the term reseller. How can you define a reseller? If I order blanks and create designs, is this considered a reseller? So if you order blanks from like ARB or Blanks Boutique or anywhere like that, you put a design on it and then you resell that same shirt, you're a reseller. That's the best way that I can describe it. So if you're buying something from someone and reselling it, you're a reseller.
And Angela, I think $300 about. So I think she's talking about the getting the license. So that's definitely what I definitely wasn't in the thousands like someone had mentioned. So thanks for sharing that.
I have two Etsy shops, one selling physical products and one selling digital products. Can I operate them both using one business license, sole proprietor? Absolutely. Just make sure you claim all the income. Nevada for sole proprietor DBA is $200 for an LLC is $435 to find, not thousands.
Oh, perfect.
Not thousands.
So
and
yeah,
Kansas is $160 to file with the state.
Oh yeah. See, so I think whoever's husband told him 1,000 was off, and you go do it. You go get that. Oh, here we go. She did respond. I didn't think they were in the thousands either. I think he just wants me to do embroidery as a hobby. Well, I mean, honestly, I started as a hobby, and that's all I ever thought it was. I mean, if y'all have listened to me before, I literally started this so I could go to lunch with my friends and not like take money from, the groceries, So I had no intentions of this to, be a business. But once I realized it was, like, especially after that first year where I was like, oh, I'm not doing what I should be doing the right way with all of this. Once you really I looked at it as a business, that's when I really grew. I got the bank account, I got the tax ID, I got all this before I maybe necessarily needed it, but it is definitely, those steps helped me, my mindset change. It allowed me to realize that, okay, this is a business, or it can be. That's the direction I wanted it to go in. And before I wasn't treating it as that. Like if I sold a shirt, I was like, oh, what a lunch, or, like throwing, oh yeah, you can have that to my kids because I just sold 8 shirts yesterday, so I wasn't looking at it, in a business way. So I think the sooner you look at it, as a business, the better off you'll be. And to go ahead and take some of these steps in the beginning that you might not think you're quite ready for, I think it will be a huge benefit to you in the long run. I wish I had kind of started a little bit earlier, keeping track of things and kind of understanding. And I'm still learning. I promise you, I'm still learning. But like my return on investments with things, like I couldn't have told you any of that in the beginning. Like, was, this one item over here just as good, or was I making just as much profit with that over here? I didn't know any different with that because I'd never really looked at the analytics and the numbers. And I do love analytics and numbers. I just don't like to have to, I don't know, do a lot with them, but I love looking at them. And so once you can kind of, dive a little bit deeper into understanding your business, you'll take it more seriously and it will allow you to grow. Here's another that, cheaper than 1,000. All right, Melissa.
If you started fall in 2020, do you file with this year or do you wait till next year since you haven't been in business for a year? You start in 2020, so you claim a part year. Whatever you made in 2020 is what's claimed on your 2020 return, as well as all of the things that you bought. So all the deductions and that kind of thing. So.
All right.
So we're keeping spreadsheets. My husband says we don't need to since we can just print it out. Aside from keeping more storing receipts, what should I be bookkeeping outside of the platform analytics? Spreadsheets are my friend. I have to admit, we like spreadsheets. And I know that like there's places like Paper and Spark that have really, really good spreadsheets that are easy where you can just download it from Etsy and upload it and it'll kind of give you some of your numbers. I always suggest that you at least look at your Etsy numbers or wherever you're selling monthly just to make sure that you're on track for where you want to be or where you think you are. But even downloading, I have clients that will download into a spreadsheet their bank account and just kind of add and subtract from there. It makes it kind of easy. These are business expenses and income, and then you can kind of get a net number. That would be the most basic way that I would say you could do it. But spreadsheets are your friends, I promise. But Paper and Spark, because you can do all of those at one time. Like you can do every month. You can just go into Etsy, download them month by month, upload them, and it'll tell you. So you could go a couple months and not remember to do your spreadsheet. And then at the end of the year, oh, I need taxes. They really help you walk through everything that you need for taxes. So I would check out them. Because you can do them and not keep up with them all the time.
And the person that owns Paper and Sparks, I will link it after I get off the live. She is absolutely amazing. I'm actually in like a Facebook group with her. and she just wants to help. She truly does. She will answer any questions that you have. She does, has some videos on how to, use her products. Yep. She has some that are specific for Etsy and some that are specific for Shopify. A lot of different e-commerce ways. I highly, highly recommend it. And each year after you bought it, she'll send you the updated version of it. So I mean, it's kind of like a one-time investment. But she's got a lot of different things, like things to track inventory. She really has spent, really solid time on specifically on what we all do. So I definitely recommend it, and I will link it. What do you think of like QuickBooks and?
So we use QuickBooks online very religiously. That is what we use in our business. There's a lot of people who are scared of it, but it is a great way. If you can get your bank account linked to it, you can do your accounting pretty quickly, and it gives you really good reports. So it is a great platform to do it, and it makes it pretty easy. Xero, Xero is another one that makes it really easy if you can get your bank account linked to just kind of categorize your stuff. It'll kind of keep you up to date. And you can do those too once a quarter, not necessarily just once a month, once a week.
Yeah, I mean, time blocking, just to be able to do that stuff is going to save you in the end. I know in the beginning, that's what I paid someone. I didn't pay, a CPA or anybody like that, but I paid someone to set up my QuickBooks. And that was huge because just that, I mean, I had bought it. I was paying, for QuickBooks and I had GoDaddy. I had all these different things, but I just didn't know how to start them. And so I paid someone and she set up my entire QuickBooks where she linked everything and, told me how to bring in Etsy's information to it and my bank account information to it. And she made all the categories. And I mean, that was probably the best $200 I've ever spent because she took the fear out of it for me. And now I just have to go and click a few buttons and I can print out, reports that at the end of the year, someone's asking me for that otherwise I could never have done on my own. So even though I don't have someone, monthly helping me, just that one-time investment of someone setting it up for me was huge. So, I mean, if you're looking at a less expensive way to maybe, start, that could be finding someone that could do that for you.
And QuickBooks has a list of pro advisors, is what they call their people, that in your area or around you, and they can all help you do that. And a lot of them will sit down and teach you how to use the QuickBooks and what you need to do and all that kind of thing. And they're generally pretty reasonably priced. So that's a great suggestion.
All right, Sandy.
What determines the date when you open the business? The day, it used to be for brick and mortar stores, it was the day you unlocked the door and let people inside. Now it's pretty much the day that you open your Etsy shop and have an item for sale. Okay. So the first day that you are ready to sell an item is the day that you open your business. What is the best month to form an LLC to avoid paying the franchise fee twice in 1 year? I would think between January and April, depending on when your franchise fees are due. A lot of them are due March and April. So if you don't want to pay more than once a year, I would open it in January because they're only going to charge you once. They'll charge you again the next January.
I don't even know what that means. Is that awful? I have no clue what that means. I do pay yearly something. See, I don't know. All right. So there's a lot. I hope you're seeing some of these comments on here. A lot of people are saying this is so helpful and thank you for answering their questions. I'm just not clicking on all those. I'm just kind of going straight to the questions. I'm glad you guys are finding this useful. I know I have. I have people that ask me questions all the time on my lives and I'm like, I'm not even willing to even attempt to answer this. So this is awesome that you're willing to come on. Okay, let me get back to. But yeah, lots of thumbs up. And y'all like this video while you're here. Let's see. All right, here's our next question.
If you own your home and claim some of your house as a business, don't you have to pay back that when you sell or something to that effect? How has that now changed? I could be incorrect. Thank you, Candy. So if you depreciate your house along with your home office deduction, you do have to reclaim that depreciation when you sell the business. What we do for 90%, probably 95% of our businesses, that depreciation doesn't usually add up to a huge amount based on your it depends on your square footage, I guess. But we usually just don't claim the depreciation so they can continue to get the exemption for the personal home exemption, which is up to $500,000 gain on a joint return. So we generally don't claim the depreciation, but if you do, you absolutely have to pay back a portion of it when you move and sell, whatever that gain was.
And Nicole, I mean, I know we're kind of delayed with questions, but Paper and Sparks is what we talked about, and we just talked about QuickBooks, and there was one other one. What was the other one you mentioned?
Xero, XCRO, and I saw somewhere in the comments somebody asked about Wave. Another business. It's a free software. I don't know a whole lot about it. We don't have anybody that's used it. I think I have one person that bills out of there, but I've heard it's okay. So there's also Crafty Base is one that's handmade businesses. They do a lot of inventory, and that one's cool because I think you can use the same material or the same, like I have 4 t-shirts and I have all of these listings. So when one sells a 4 t-shirt, they all go down to 3. So we have a way to do that. So that one's kind of nice if you have trouble with that. I know when I was selling shirts, I couldn't ever remember what I had in stock, ever.
I can't either. I really can't. Like, I have to count every time. I'm like, this is ridiculous. I had cute little like wipey boards. I had a Excel spreadsheet that I printed out and my pencil and eraser, and I still haven't figured it out. I'm awful. So if I might have missed a couple here on the side. And Lisa, she says she loves spreadsheets herself. Spreadsheets are cool. All right, a couple people said something about Paper and Sparks. Okay, I'm going to say this is probably a little too broad. I need beginner help. I don't know where to start. It's probably a little too vague, but we are here for you. So if you have something specific, then we can get you going. But my only advice, like I said earlier, is just if you're wanting this to grow into a business, then treat it like a business from day one.
Absolutely.
Go ahead and keep every receipt. I mean, just treat it like a business. Don't treat it like a hobby if that is your end goal. If your goal is just to make things for your grandkids and make things for your kids, as they go through the next few years, then not so much. But if this is something that you are wanting to grow, as a side gig or a full-time business, then you just from day one start treating it as that. That's my advice. And I don't do accounting.
The other thing I would say is find a small business accounting professional, not just a tax person, because the accounting professional will know kind of what you need to track and all of that kind of stuff for taxes too. But a lot of them are willing to sit down with you, usually for an hourly fee, and walk you through your specific situation and help you get it started. And it will, in the end, save you a lot of money on the tax side. Hi, considering starting a business here, I purchased lots of materials and items in 2020. I did not claim my taxes for 2020. Can this inventory, anything that you bought that you didn't claim, if you haven't started your business yet, you can absolutely claim in 2021.
Linda's getting a she shed.
I haven't started my business yet, but my shed is not finished yet. I bought it 5 years ago. Can I still count it on taxes next year? Absolutely, you can count it on your taxes next year. It would just be the fair market value when you actually put it into service. So whatever it is worth now, if it's 5 years old and it's worth $100, then that's what you get to claim. If it's still in great condition and it's $2,500, that's what you can claim on your taxes next year. Do you really need to save every receipt to show what you spent for the year? That's a trick question. I am 100% honest and tell you I am terrible at saving receipts. I am awful, and I am an accountant. You need the receipts if you get audited. So generally, the IRS says anything under $25 is kind of de minimis, and they're not going to really take a look at. But if you want to be able to claim it in the event that you get audited, I would save the receipt.
I'm awful with receipts. And now they'll ask, you want the receipt? I'm like, no. So it just goes to my purse and I lose it. But everyone asks that now.
They do.
this is the wave, and you just touched on that. So, she said, I need that someone to help me. So that's what we were talking about. That's what you need. Just exactly what you had mentioned to her. A couple people said me too. And then a couple people are answering others' questions. So that's good. All right. How many years? There you go.
So you're technically supposed to save your receipts for 5 to 7 years. They are a pain to store. My suggestion is maybe you get a scanner and scan them all in. We do that now. We scan all of our clients' receipts into, we have like a cloud-based drive. It's not Dropbox or Google Drive, but those would work absolutely fine. You do not have to have a physical receipt for the IRS. You just have to have a copy of the receipt. So also a lot of those are temperature sensitive. So after 5 years, you can't read them. So it's always, if you have a scanner, scan them in and toss them.
Or when I spill something in my purse, they don't last that well. My husband scans everything. That's what he's kind of training me to do, is to scan everything. I mean, he does it. He works remote for everything he does in business. So he scans everything and submits it, to his company that way. So that's the way to go, I think. We kind of touched on this, and we kind of said they're the same thing, aren't they?
They're generally the same thing. Some states have different rules. And call them, and every state can call them something different. So just check with your state, but they're generally the same thing.
Because I've always called mine the sales and use tax ID.
Yep.
And I think that's what those things are here.
Yep.
How did you find the person that set up QuickBooks? And so if you're the one I found, I actually in a Facebook group, a local Facebook group that was for women entrepreneurs. I don't know, I'm members of lots of random things, but I felt like I was a women entrepreneur. So I joined that group, and I just asked, is there anyone that is familiar with small business accounting? And this person actually wasn't an accountant, but she was a bookkeeper, and she had, and that's what she specialized in, was bookkeeping. And at that point I was like, well, that's a great way to start at least. And she was kind of new to what she was doing, so that I knew she wasn't going to charge a lot because she was new. But I also knew she was going to be thorough because she hadn't done it a lot. So I always think that's always good to get someone at the ground floor. So I just reached out in my community to find somebody that had done something like that before. So.
And then QuickBooks does have that pro advisor. It's called Find a Pro Advisor. You can find somebody in your area, and it's a great way to at least start to call them and see if they're willing to do that and that kind of thing. So, what is a franchise fee? So a franchise fee is actually different in every state. Some states, in Kansas, they're called annual reports. It's an annual fee that you pay to have your LLC in that state. Some states have them, some states don't. Sometimes a franchise fee is a tax that a locality or a state will charge you. Texas has a franchise fee instead of an actual tax on its business. So it kind of depends on your state. Every state calls it something different, but it's generally an annual either tax or fee that you have to pay to have your business in that state.
Destiny wants to know if anybody in California knows CPA. I'm sure there's plenty of resources to look for them.
I'm sure there are.
Kimberly says she uses Google Sheets for her inventory. Alexa helps me keep up with inventory, mostly what sizes I need to reorder. Yeah, that's so creepy. My Alexa will say, Kelly, it's been a long time since you've ordered your blah, blah, blah stabilizer. Or not a long time. It's you normally buy it every 8 days and you haven't put your order in yet. Scary. All right.
If you make every purchase with your business credit card, do you need a receipt? Yes. They do not necessarily take your credit card transactions as gold. They want to know what you bought with it, especially if it's from Amazon, because there's so much available. So you do need your receipt to prove what was purchased and it was an actual business expense.
Yeah, it's kind of where I'm like, well, if it's all in the same thing, but at least I know it's all tracking in the same. I'm not good. Okay. Pamela says she saves all her receipts. Good for you. All right.
If you purchase a $500 machine off Facebook Market and have no receipt. Can I claim it on your taxes? Yes, you can claim it on your taxes, but know that you may have to find proof of it somehow if the IRS ever audits you. Now, the chance of an audit is like, I think 1% in the last few years. They have come out and said they're going to audit more this year, but I don't know how. They don't have enough staff. So the answer is yes, you can claim it. If you have the actual ad for that you clicked on from Facebook Market, I would save that and then just tell them that you paid cash or whatever. But yes, I would claim it on my taxes and then deal with the proof if the IRS needs it.
Yeah, I bought a liquidation. Like I literally bought a company when they were closing. I bought their entire warehouse, and that ended up being a little strange with the way that worked because it wasn't. I bought it at one price instead of item by item. But that year is come and gone. I don't have to do that again. But that was a little more confusing when we were breaking down. I guess liquidation is a little different.
It is. Would it help if you use an account for only the business? Do you still need a receipt? I think I just answered that. Yes.
All right. She says scanning is a great idea. Yeah, good. She puts every receipt in a plastic container with a lid, even if it's for Burger King. All right, let's see.
Different locations as a bank box or something works great for important pictures too. I agree.
Yeah, I think anything with an external hard drive is nice. Let's see. We got to the end of our questions, and we're exactly an hour in. I'm sure people have more questions, but I know that's kind of exhausting to answer these. If anybody has any specific questions, maybe we'll hang tight for about 5 more minutes, but I don't want to take up too much of Dyan's time. I know it gets late for everybody when we're doing these in the evening. Anything else that you can think of that we should know before? I know a lot of people watch this on a replay, so that's the great thing about YouTube. And I kind of get on here when I feel like the most people can. I mean, we still have 118 people on right now, but I know people will watch this later and still get such a huge benefit from the questions that you're answering because they're the same questions that, a lot of us have. So if anyone doesn't have anything, go for it. If you have anything else to share.
I would say the other big piece of advice that I have for small business owners is to work on your business, not just in it. So take some time, like carve out time either once a week, once a month to look at your numbers, to make sure that, you're doing what you need to do, to make samples so that you can move your business forward. I know that when I was doing the shirts, I never had time to make new shirts because I was always doing the shirts that I had on order and that kind of thing. So carving out some time to work on your business, whether it be on the finance side or the advertising side or whatever, is the thing that business owners forget to do. Because we get so busy doing things for other people, we don't do what we need to do for our own business. And that goes for both of my businesses, my accounting firm too.
And it's hard. It's hard to if I don't block time out to do some of this stuff, then it doesn't get done because I just want to keep making things. And when I'm busy, I just feel like I should be working on an order versus crunching numbers. So I literally have to write down all right, from 9 to 10, I'm going to work on, this specifically and just make sure I kind of zone in on things like that. Or else I would never do that part of it. Okay. A couple more questions came in. I'm still not going to keep you on too long. Let's see. But let me go back up.
I'm filing taxes jointly with my husband. What do I need to do if we use TurboTax? For your business, you will need to file what's called a Schedule C. And they'll ask you who it's for, whether it's for you or your husband. And then you'll just fill out the numbers for that. So that's how you file taxes for a small business if you don't have a partnership. Received a letter from the tax assessor's office asking me to inventory all my personal items used for my business. Is that another tax charge on items and equipment that I already purchased? Yes. In some states, they have a business tax, property tax. And so if you have tangible assets in your business, you are taxed on the market, on the value of those items. Missouri has those. So, yep, it's another tax. They never end sometimes.
Mhm. This is a good one that probably a lot of us don't follow.
Yep. So generally, I tell people to figure out what they want or need to make from the business. If it's going to be a business that's going to provide them money, not just necessarily a whatever I make is great and I can go to lunch kind of business, is to to just write, if you have a separate account, write yourself a check every week, every 2 weeks, once a month, from that business to your personal so that you can do that. That's the easiest way to do it. Or when you have extra money, just write a check from that business account to your personal account, and that's kind of how you pay yourself. Unless, I mean, there are other things, if you're like an S Corp and that kind of thing, you have to be on payroll, but you should know that if you are one of those. So really, it's easy as just write yourself a check. I would say that another piece of advice I have is to make sure that you're making what you want to make out of the business. Pay yourself first. There's a really good book by Mike Michalowicz called Profit First. It goes a little overboard in the number of accounts that you maybe needed to open up, but it's a really great book on how to transfer money into savings and that kind of thing. So, you always want to be transferring money for tax savings. We generally say about 30%, depending on your tax situation. It'll change for everybody, but put it in a savings account, that kind of thing. But read Profit First. It's a good book. It's not a boring accountant book. He's actually really good at writing and not terrible. So it's a great thing to read, to know how to pay yourself and make your business pay you what you want it to pay you.
I'll link that below too when we go off of our live. I think that book's awesome, and I love that you've recommended it, because I didn't know if that really was like a real way of maybe doing it, or if that's just the way I wanted it to be. Like, that's the way I can get paid. But I do what you mentioned. Like, I literally have a direct deposit straight into our family's account. And I have to make sure I make that number every week. And so that's motivating to me, because that's what I have, told, my husband and in our work world, that's what I can contribute and I want to contribute. And so by making it like a direct deposit that is automatically drafted, it pushes me. Some weeks where, it might be a little slower, like, all right, let me throw something up on Facebook and see if I, can make sure I'm meeting the goals that I've set for myself. Because if in the beginning, when I didn't have goals, it's just like you said, I mean, that's cool. I made, a few extra dollars, but now it's like, okay, this is a job and I need to make this much to move on to the next week in this. And,
And one of the concepts in that book is that you pay yourself before you do anything else. And so if you pay yourself whatever that percentage is that you set out, then you only have so much left for your fabric hoarding problem or your we have those as crafters. And so it kind of helps you know what you're spending on supplies as well and kind of keep that under control. So, but it's a really good book. Again, I don't think you need 7 accounts, maybe like 2 or 3, but the concept is really good.
That's awesome. All right, we'll do this couple more and then we'll wrap up.
Any idea, can you give me an estimate of a small business accountant cost? That is going to be different in every part of the country. Around here, small business accountants generally charge between $100 to $150 an hour. If they're a CPA, bookkeepers will cost anywhere from $15 to probably $50 an hour, $60 an hour. That's in the Midwest, in Kansas, Missouri, Illinois, this kind of area. 15 is on the really low end. Bookkeepers are great if you're looking for somebody to help you set up your QuickBooks as well, because that's what they do. They record all transactions, like that's their job. So you can always look for those. Those are generally less expensive than a CPA, but a CPA will also know the tax side. So that's the benefit that you get. They have a lot more knowledge in a lot more areas, but it's really hard to judge. You'll have to call. And I will be really honest, accountants are not forthcoming with their costs. They're not. We don't list them on our websites. We don't, a lot of times if you call, we'll tell you, but we have to have a consultation. And I will tell you most of the time it's because other accountants are calling us, asking us what our costs are. If that's the first question out of their mouth. So.
It's kind of like embroidery machine dealers that don't tell you until you shop around.
Yeah. But some of them have deals like quarterly, or they'll help you with if you do your taxes with them, they'll help you with other things as well, and that kind of thing. So it's all going to depend. So throw out some things that could be tax deductible that we might not think of. Well, the home office is often missed. Advertising gets missed a lot. So if you pay for Facebook ads or anything like that, subscriptions like Adobe, Office, any kind of software subscription software that you buy, that even if you use it in like your house as well, if you buy it specifically for the business, that's deductible. Telephone, we get this a lot. With everybody's cell phone, you get to usually take a percentage of what you use it for the business. So you can't claim 100% of a cell phone because the IRS knows you use it for your personal stuff too. But internet costs get missed a lot. And a lot of times we will separate those from utilities, just because if you have to have an internet connection to run your business, you should be able to deduct at least most of that cost. Probably, again, not all of it, but most of it, not just the square footage part. So those are some big ones. I actually have a list of the common deductions for small businesses, as well as the home office deductions and what you need to gather. So if I can get it to anybody that wants it, or how I can get it to them, you let me know. But we do have one of those.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm going to link all of your information down too below. So if you don't mind.
Nope. We'll just shoot me an email. We'll send you the deduction list if you want it. It's pretty easy. We also have a tax savings calculator, so it goes by month, and it helps you track your income as well, because it'll tell you what your income is, because then you should be tracking it for savings. So we've found that helps our small businesses actually put money in the tax account, so that they're not scared at the end of the year when I give them a big bill.
Yeah. This was just a QuickBooks question, I think, QB.
If I save my receipts in QuickBooks, should I worry about backing them up via scan? I'm kind of on the fence, because I've seen QuickBooks. So if you ever leave QuickBooks, you will lose all of those when your account goes away. That's my biggest fear. If you don't ever plan to leave QuickBooks, then you should be okay. But they will keep them for a long, long time.
This one makes me laugh because I'm not sure what she's referring to, but she's just scared. I hope this has eased some of your, or at least it's going to give you the questions you need to ask. You might not have all the answers at the moment, but at least hopefully this will point you in the direction to know that maybe there's more you need to know, and maybe there's someone else you need to pull into your team. So don't be scared. I'm still scared. This stuff still scares me. Okay. We'll get to the bottom of this and then we'll shut her down. But
okay. So then I think, should we Inc., LLC, et cetera, and which one should we do? This always confuses me. So I touched on this a little bit earlier. An Inc. and an LLC are basically just liability protection against your small business. So if somebody sues you, they can't come after you personally. An LLC generally has less rules on a state level that you need to keep every year. So if with an Inc. or a corporation, you have to have minutes of your shareholders, you have to have all these different things. Every state is different that you have to keep every year to make sure that you're in compliance with your corporation documents. An LLC generally doesn't have those. So, but you still get the liability protection. So if you're a small business, LLC is generally the way to go. There are some professional companies that cannot be LLCs, but probably not on this webinar.
This kind of goes along with it, so I popped it up there.
No. So you get the same deductions as an LLC, as a DBA. The only thing you may have is you have to register your LLC every year, so you have an extra fee. That's an extra deduction, but you also pay it.
And I'm not sure of this person's name, but she says she's learned that she's doing everything wrong. No, this is where we start. All right. Do you have to pay taxes on the money you pay yourself?
So not directly. You pay taxes on the net income of your business. And the money you pay yourself is basically you taking that net income. It's kind of a hard concept, but just because you write yourself a check for $1,500 doesn't mean you're going to pay tax on that $1,500. You're going to pay tax on your income less any deductions. Whatever that net number is what you'll pay yourself, or what you'll pay taxes on.
I had a couple people over here ask for the name of the book. It was Profit First, and I put it in the comment section, but I'll put it in the description of this video once I end the live. Is my husband's name personal?
Schedule C. So he fills out a Schedule C. When you do the TurboTax account, it'll ask you if you have other small business income or income from another source. He'll click yes. It'll take you to a Schedule C, and it'll ask who the business is for, whether it's taxpayer or spouse. So.
And CMA, her name's Candy. All right. Let's see. 2 more questions, and that will kind of wrap us up.
If you have an Etsy, do you have to have an LLC? No. I'm pretty sure you can use your Social Security number.
Yeah, I mean, some people literally do Etsy just for just a little side money here and there.
When you pay yourself, do you need to pay Social Security, et cetera? Not unless you're running like W-2 payroll, which you probably are not. So I'm going to say no. So as a small business, you pay on your net income, you pay self-employment tax, which basically is the equivalent to the percentage for Social Security and Medicare that people have taken out of their paychecks and that their employer pays. So you kind of pay Social Security in a roundabout way, but you don't need to do it when you pay yourself.
Linda's asked this twice, but I'm not sure if this has, I don't know what this means. So that's why I didn't put it up there the first time.
A patent? Talk to an attorney.
So see, I didn't think that was for us, but I guess I don't do my tax stuff, so I don't know.
I'm a good patent attorney.
Okay,
my guess.
I'm gonna look real quick because someone said I missed their question. So hold on, let me make sure. I'm sure I missed a few. You skipped my question. Sarah Ann says I skipped her question, but I don't know what it was. So I'm sorry if I skipped it. If you write it real quick, we can do it. Candy says the book has a piggy on it. Someone just said you used their Audible credit to get Profit First. So that's awesome. All right, Sarah Ann. I don't see your question. I'm sorry. I'm sure I skipped some as I was going through. There was lots of questions over here on the side, and I was trying to get the ones.
Oh, here it is.
Oh, she posted it now?
I've always heard you only do it over a certain threshold. Wait, I'm not sure what the first part of it is. Oh, do you have to file taxes at a certain amount earned or any at all? So you technically have to file taxes if you make $1. So even if you have a loss, the loss is going to help you on your taxes actually. But yes, if you sell something for a business and you make $1, you have to claim it you have to start filing taxes with the IRS.
Yay, we got to the end. This was awesome. So scary to some, but helpful to most. So this is so awesome that you were able to take the time to go over this stuff with us. It really, I mean, all the comments, every other one over here is just saying thank you. And hopefully you're seeing those and just how helpful this is to everybody. So I appreciate you taking your time to do this. She's just doing this out of the goodness of her heart, knowing that we have lots of questions and that she loves talking to small business owners. So I really do appreciate you coming on tonight.
Absolutely. I love this. I love answering questions. I'd rather answer a question than to have people be scared or do something wrong and then have to try and fix it. So yeah. She'll link my information. If you have questions about something specific to your own thing, email me. I'll answer.
Perfect.
If I can.
I'll definitely link it. Yeah. I'll link it because a couple of people have asked for that list that you talked about for deductions. So that would be really helpful. So I will definitely link all that below. And I just really appreciate everybody coming on tonight and for you taking the time to ask questions. And if you guys have more questions, I know you do, then maybe we can have Dyan back on again. So thank you all. And I hope you'll have a great night. I really appreciate everybody popping on. Bye. I don't know what's going to happen when I click this, Dyan. If I lose contact with you as well, then I appreciate you being here.
Okay. Bye.